Following the death of the empire's governor, Muawiya, the early Islamic world faced a severe political crisis. Muawiya bypassed a foundational peace treaty to install his son, Yazid, as caliph. Yazid was widely known for his cruelty, corruption, and complete disregard for the religious principles he was supposed to uphold. Knowing his ascension lacked legitimacy, Yazid abandoned diplomacy. He immediately dispatched letters to his regional governors with a strict, violent directive. They were to extract oaths of allegiance from the public by force, utilizing the threat of the sword to ensure compliance. Securing these general oaths was secondary to Yazid's main objective. His entire reign hinged on extracting allegiance from one specific figure, Imam Husayn, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Husayn's endorsement would instantly validate the regime, causing the rest of the fractured empire to fall in line. Yazid's demanding absolute submission to a violent autocracy. An oath of allegiance was traditionally a mutual social contract, but the new regime required total, unquestioning obedience to a deeply corrupt system. The governor of Medina summoned Husayn under the cover of night, secretly pressuring him to endorse the new caliph. Husayn flatly refused. He understood that pledging loyalty to such a ruler would permanently legitimize the corruption tearing through the empire. To prevent Yazid's forces from initiating bloodshed inside the sacred city limits, Husayn quietly gathered his family. They left under the cover of darkness, relocating south to the sanctuary of Mecca. Husayn's movement firmly rejected the pursuit of power. By taking his family into exile rather than raising a military force, he established a clear moral boundary against tyranny. Proving his refusal was based on strict ethical principles, not a political dispute over the throne. While exiled in Mecca, Husayn received thousands of letters from Kufa, a major garrison city, where citizens begged him to arrive and lead them against Yazid's forces. To verify their loyalty and assess the situation, Husayn sent his emissary, Muslim bin Aqil. Yazid countered with swift, devastating tactics. He installed a ruthless new governor, Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, who entered Kufa in disguise. Ziyad quickly executed Husayn's emissary and crushed the local resistance through mass arrests and targeted killings. Unaware Kufa had entirely fallen to imperial control, Husayn's small caravan marched forward into the desert. An armed vanguard intercepted them, forcing the family and their few supporters to halt on the desolate, sun-scorched plains of Karbala. This tactical map shows exactly how the empire leveraged the environment against them. Yazid's commander, Omar bin Saad, ordered hundreds of soldiers to form a physical barricade, completely severing Husayn's isolated camp from the Euphrates River. The empire deployed thirst specifically as a psychological weapon. By forcing Husayn to watch his own children and family members suffer from extreme dehydration under the desert sun, the military aimed to entirely break the camp's moral resolve. By the dawn of the 10th of Muharram, the brutal arithmetic of the standoff was absolute. Husayn's camp of roughly 70 individuals, weakened by days without water, stood entirely alone against an entrenched imperial army numbering in the thousands. The day was marked by immense individual sacrifice. Husayn's brother Abbas shattered the enemy lines to reach the riverbank. He scooped water into his hands, but remembering his family's severe thirst, refused to drink. While riding back with a filled water skin, he was ambushed, losing his arms and life. The psychological toll of the siege culminated in an act of extreme brutality. When Husayn brought out his 6-month-old infant son, Ali Asqa, asking the opposing army for a small amount of water for the child, an enemy sniper responded by shooting the infant in the neck. Eventually, all of Husayn's companions fell. Bleeding from countless wounds and dehydrated, Husayn stood alone. He charged furiously into the massive ranks of the imperial army, continuing to fight alone until he was struck down. Husayn's camp was annihilated, but Yazid's military victory proved disastrous for the empire. By choosing absolute sacrifice over submission, Husayn exposed the regime's extreme inhumanity, securing an ideological triumph that brute force could not erase. As the horrific details of the Karbala massacre became public, the empire's grip instantly fractured. Citizens in Kufa, Mecca, and Medina realized the depths of Yazid's depravity and launched massive armed uprisings in direct retaliation. Looking at this timeline, we see how the outrage at Karbala cascaded geopolitically. The massacre created a continuous chain of rebellion that steadily expanded, eventually fueling the Abbasid revolution that completely wiped the Umayyad dynasty out of power. The events at Karbala immediately mutated into an active, replicating blueprint. It provided ordinary citizens with a specific, enduring ideological framework to organize their resistance against extreme systemic violence. We clearly see this blueprint operating centuries later. By 1979, the Shah of Iran ruled through an oppressive, Western-backed regime that actively suppressed political and religious dissent across the country. A prominent cleric named Ayatollah Khomeini began circulating a powerful rallying cry to mobilize the public. He reminded the citizens that every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. The Iranian people adopted this framework entirely. They marched through the streets holding banners bearing Hussein's name, framing their struggle against the Shah as a direct continuation of the battle at Karbala, ultimately toppling the monarchy. This identical rhetoric drives modern uprisings today. In recent protests across Lebanon, Iraq, and Nigeria, citizens fed up with severe poverty and state corruption have explicitly labeled their ruling politicians as modern-day Yazids. The core mechanics of Hussein's defiance, standing firm against overwhelming authority, apply far beyond sectarian lines. We see these same principles activated in global justice movements, where unarmed citizens face down militarized forces to demand basic human rights. The philosopher Allama Iqbal observed that Islam is inherently political. A faith meant to establish justice is useless if confined to quiet prayer. The enduring lesson of Karbala is that true morality must be weaponized against tyranny, out in the open for the entire world to witness.